You actually think they'll help us after what we did? The words hung in the stale air of the war chamber, met with a silence more suffocating than the thick smoke outside. General Tarkin's voice, deep and gravely, echoed across the room, filled with the desperate remnants of what was once the most powerful coalition in the galaxy. The council members, an assembly of alien species from various corners of the galaxy, sat around the vast table, their expressions a mix of fear, desperation, and shame. The mighty Aarons, with their 3 glowing eyes, flickered nervously. The Taurans, known for their size and brute strength, were now a shell of their former selves, their once vibrant scales dull and cracked. Even the ever-proud Draar, who had boasted of never bowing to any enemy, now stared at the floor, their wings folded tightly against their bodies. But it was the humans that had become the unspoken truth in the room. The species they had once shunned, disregarded as primitive and inconsequential, now held the key to their survival, and everyone knew why. "We've exhausted every option," Tarkin continued, his voice cutting through the thick tension. "Every strategy, every weapon, every alliance. The CRE have wiped out billions of our people, destroyed entire fleets. We are on the brink of extinction." "And now," rasped Zarth, the Draar representative, his voice quivering with the weight of defeat, "we turn to those we betrayed." Betrayed was an understatement. When the coalition first encountered the humans, they had underestimated them. The humans had offered their assistance, their technology, and their unique approach to warfare. But the coalition, blinded by arrogance, had dismissed them, seeing them as nothing more than an insignificant race from a backwater planet. When the humans began to rise, showing their prowess in ways the coalition had not anticipated, the aliens tried to push them back, to control them. They had even gone so far as to sabotage human efforts in the name of maintaining galactic order. But the humans had pushed forward, growing stronger, smarter, and more tenacious with each conflict. And when the CRE invaded a merciless species from beyond the known galaxy, the coalition realized too late what they had done. General Tarkin fixed his gaze on the holographic map before him, showing the expanding red zones where the CRE had decimated entire star systems. "We don't have a choice. If we don't ask for their help, we will be annihilated." A heavy silence settled again, broken only by the labored breathing of the Torgon beside him. Finally, Drek Fall, the Astran leader whose once bright voice had turned dull with defeat, spoke up. "How do we approach them after everything? We have no leverage, no trust, no reason for them to listen." Tarkin's lips curled into something that might have been a smile, had it not been so devoid of warmth. "We give them what they have always wanted, freedom from the Council. No more oversight, no more interference." There was a murmur of discontent among the Council, but it was half-hearted at best. The reality was unavoidable. If they didn't act now, there would be nothing left to govern. The chamber doors hissed open, and the room fell into a hushed anticipation as a single figure walked in. Tall, broad-shouldered, and wrapped in a black military uniform, the human's presence was imposing. Captain Elias Kane, a name that had become synonymous with fear and respect, strode towards the council, his face impassive, eyes scanning the room like a predator surveying prey. "Captain Kane," Tarkin began, but the human cut him off with a raised hand. "I know why I'm here," he said, his voice sharp, devoid of any courtesy. "But I want to hear it from you." Tarkin swallowed his pride, a bitter pill to choke down. "We need your help, Captain. The Coalition, we can't hold off the CRE any longer. They're too powerful, too ruthless." Kane's expression didn't change. "You need our help? After all the times you undermined us, sabotaged us, tried to control us." The accusation hit hard. There was no point in denying it. They had done all those things and more in the name of maintaining what they thought was order. "We made mistakes," Tarkin admitted, his voice heavy with the weight of those words. "Grievous mistakes. But now millions have fallen, and hope is all but extinguished. If you don't help us, there will be nothing left of this galaxy." For a moment, There was only silence as Kane studied them, his gaze cold and calculating. Then he spoke, each word deliberate and cutting. "You've brought this on yourselves. But humanity is not like you. We don't abandon those who need us, even if they don't deserve it." There was a collective breath of relief in the room, though no one dared to show it openly. "But make no mistake," Kane continued, his tone hardening. "This isn't out of kindness. We do this on our terms. When the CRE are finished, humanity will be free to do as it sees fit. The Coalition's reign over us ends today." Tarkin nodded, the weight of his concession crushing but necessary. "Agreed." Kane's face softened, but only slightly. "Then prepare yourselves. We fight our way, and we don't stop until the CRE are nothing more than a dark memory." With that, he turned on his heel and left the chamber, leaving the council members in stunned silence. They had summoned the humans as a last resort, but now they had to face the reality that the fate of the galaxy was no longer in their hands. The humans would fight, and they would win on their terms. And deep down, each member knew that this war would change everything. The CRE invasion fleet hovered in the void, a massive, sprawling network of living ships, each one pulsating with a sickly organic glow. Their tendrils reached out into space, harvesting the energy of dying stars and obliterating any resistance in their path. The Coalition's fleets, once proud and mighty, had been shattered, reduced to debris floating in the cold darkness. Now, the final line of defense lay in the hands of those who had been once considered outsiders, humans. Captain Elias Kane stood on the bridge of the Resolute, the flagship of humanity's newly forged fleet. The ship, like all others in the human armada, was a masterpiece of function over form, sharp angles, reinforced plating, and bristling with weaponry. It was a design born out of necessity, a vessel built for one purpose: to win a war that others had already lost. "Status report," Kane barked, his eyes fixed on the tactical display that filled the center of the bridge. "All ships are in position," replied Lieutenant Marcus Drake, his second-in-command. "The fleet is ready to engage on your orders." Kane nodded, his mind racing as he considered the situation. The humans had never faced anything like the CRE before, but they had learned from the mistakes of the Coalition. They had studied the enemy, adapted their tactics, and most importantly, they had prepared to fight in a way the CRE would never expect. "We're not going to win this by playing it safe," Kane said, his voice low but filled with conviction. "The CRE have been tearing through the galaxy because everyone keeps trying to fight them head-on. That ends now." Drake glanced at him, a question in his eyes, but he knew better than to doubt his captain. "What's the plan?" "We hit them where it hurts," Kane replied, a grim smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "They think they understand war, but they've never fought humans." Kane's plan was as audacious as it was dangerous. Instead of meeting the CRE in a traditional battle, where their overwhelming numbers and firepower would surely crush the human fleet, Kane intended to take the fight directly to the CRE's command structure. They would target the nerve centers of the CRE fleet, the massive organic ships that controlled the lesser vessels. If they could disrupt the CRE command hierarchy, they could turn the tide of the war. "All ships, this is Captain Kane," he said, his voice broadcasting across the fleet. "We've been handed an impossible mission, and I won't lie to you. Many of us won't make it back. But I promise you this: we will make them pay for every life they've taken, for every world they've destroyed. We will show them what humanity is capable of." There was a moment of silence. Then the comms lit up with acknowledgments from every corner of the fleet. The resolve was clear. Every human in the fleet knew what was at stake, and none of them intended to back down. "Engage," Kane ordered. The human fleet surged forward, engines flaring as they cut through the darkness towards the CRE. The alien armada reacted instantly, their ships shifting and reorganizing to intercept the human vessels. But Kane had anticipated this. He had spent weeks studying the CRE's tactics, identifying their patterns. And now, as the two forces clashed. The human fleet danced around the enemy with a precision that was almost frightening. Kane's ships did not engage in prolonged firefights. Instead, they struck with brutal efficiency, targeting weak points and then moving on before the CRE could respond. The alien ships, so used to overwhelming their foes with sheer numbers, found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned by the smaller, faster human vessels. The first breakthrough came when the Vanguard, a destroyer-class ship under Captain Ramos, managed to breach the defenses of a CRE command ship. The CRE vessel, a grotesque behemoth of pulsating flesh and bone, shuddered as the Vanguard's torpedoes tore through its hull, sending shockwaves through the enemy fleet. Direct hit on the command ship, Drake reported, his voice tinged with excitement. The CRE are faltering. But Kane wasn't satisfied with just one victory. Focus on the other command ships, he ordered. We need to break their control completely. The fleet responded with renewed vigor as the human ships pressed the attack. More CRE command vessels began to falter. Without their central control, the lesser CRE ships became disorganized, their formations breaking apart as they struggled to adapt to the new reality. Kane watched the tactical display with a keen eye, noting the shifts in the battle. The CRE were still dangerous, still capable of inflicting massive casualties. But the tide was turning. For the first time since the invasion began, the CRE were on the defense. But this was no time for celebration. Kane knew better than anyone that the CRE were a relentless enemy, and they would not go down without a fight. Maintain pressure, he ordered. Don't let them regroup. As the battle raged on, the human fleet continued to push deeper into the CRE formation, targeting the remaining command ships. Each successful strike sent ripples through the enemy ranks, weakening their resolve, sowing chaos among their forces. Yet even as the CRE began to falter, Kane knew they had not yet achieved total victory. The enemy still had the advantage in numbers, and there was always the risk that the CRE would find a way to regroup and counterattack. But for now, they had momentum on their side, and Kane intended to keep it that way. We've got them on the ropes, Drake said, a note of hope creeping into his voice. Not yet, Kane replied, his eyes never leaving the display. But we're getting close. The human fleet pressed on, their attacks relentless, their resolve unshaken. And as each CRE ship fell, Kane knew they were one step closer to achieving what the galaxy had thought impossible, the defeat of the CRE. But the final blow had yet to be struck, and Kane was determined to ensure that when it came, it would be decisive. Captain Elias Kane stood at the center of the Resolute's bridge, his gaze locked onto the tactical display as the battle against the CRE reached its zenith. The human fleet had shattered the CRE's command structure, leaving the once unbeatable enemy forces reeling. Yet, despite their progress, Kane knew that the CRE were far from defeated. Their ships, driven more by instinct than strategy, continued to lash out with deadly precision, causing damage even in their disarray. We've identified the CRE's primary command vessel, Lieutenant Drake announced, his fingers flying over the console. It's the largest one yet, deep in their formation. Kane's eyes narrowed. This was it, the nerve center of the entire CRE invasion force. If they could destroy it, the CRE would be reduced to mindless, leaderless beasts, easy prey for the human fleet. But getting to it would be another matter entirely. Send coordinates to the fleet, Kane ordered. We're going in. The Resolute led the charge, its engines roaring as it cut through the chaos of the battlefield. The rest of the human fleet followed in tight formation, a spear aimed directly at the heart of the CRE. As they closed the distance, the CRE ships became more frantic, their attacks more desperate. Plasma bolts and energy blasts streaked through the void, lighting up the darkness with deadly brilliance. Shields holding at 70%, Drake reported as the Resolute absorbed another hit. We're taking heavy fire, Captain. Kane's face remained impassive. Push through. Divert all power to forward shields and engines. The ship lurched as it surged ahead, the combined might of the human fleet concentrating on a single point. The CRE, sensing the threat, threw everything they had at the advancing human ships. Vessels were torn apart, explosions ripping through the blackness as both sides exchanged fire. But the humans were relentless, their ships pressing forward with a determination that bordered on madness. Finally, the CRE command vessel came into view. It was a monstrosity, larger than anything Kane had ever seen. Its surface was a writhing mass of tendrils and organic armor, pulsing with a sickly green light that radiated power and malevolence. "All ships, target that vessel," Kane commanded. "Hit it with everything we've got." The human fleet obeyed, unleashing a barrage of torpedoes, railgun rounds, and energy blasts. The CRE vessel shuddered under the onslaught, its defenses struggling to hold. But it was far from defenseless. Massive bioorganic weapons emerged from its hull, spewing beams of destructive energy that carved through the human ships. "We've lost the Vanguard and the Defiance," Drake reported grimly. "But the target's shields are failing." "Good," Kane replied. "Prepare for the final strike." The Resolute charged forward, leading the remaining ships in a desperate assault. As they closed the distance, Kane knew this was their only chance. If they failed now, there would be no second attempt. "Divert all remaining power to weapons," Kane ordered, "and prepare to fire the core cannon." The core cannon was the Resolute's most powerful weapon, a devastating energy beam capable of penetrating even the strongest defenses. But it required a massive amount of power, leaving the ship vulnerable during the charge-up. "Core cannon ready," Drake confirmed, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Fire," Kane commanded. The cannon roared to life, a blinding beam of energy lancing out and striking the CRE command vessel. The impact was catastrophic, ripping through the ship's organic armor and piercing its core. For a moment, there was silence as the massive vessel seemed to convulse, its tendrils writhing in agony. Then, with a deafening explosion, it erupted into a massive fireball, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The CRE ships faltered, their movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. Without their command vessel, they were nothing more than mindless drones, easy prey for the human fleet. "We did it," Drake said, his voice filled with awe and relief. "The command vessel is destroyed." Kane allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. "Begin mop-up operations," he ordered. "Let's finish this." As the human fleet moved to eliminate the remaining CRE ships, Kane stood silently, his gaze fixed on the debris-strewn battlefield. They had won a great victory, but at a heavy cost. The fleet had suffered significant losses, and countless lives had been sacrificed to achieve this moment. Yet, for the first time since the war began, there was hope. Humanity had proven its worth, not just to the galaxy, but to itself. And as Captain Elias Kane stared into the void, he knew that this was only the beginning. The CRE were defeated, but the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had risen from the ashes of betrayal and despair, and now it stood as a force to be reckoned with, a force that would shape the future of the galaxy.